What's up YouTube? It's Honda Yamaha fan, and today we're going to be taking a tour of my 1977 Lincoln Continental Town Car. Let's get to it. So starting front to back on this car, as you can see, it's a land yacht. The car is about 19.2 feet long and weighs, I think, a little over 5,000 pounds. That was what it weighed in at the salvage yard. In 1977, the big block wasn't standard equipment, but this one is equipped with the optional 460 big block. That's 7.5 liters of pure American muscle. But at around that time, that's known as the Malaise era, and they detuned the big block to the point where it only put out about 208 horsepower, but it had some ridiculous torque. I think it was 300 and something foot-pounds of torque. You could pull a stump out with this car. I'm going to show you the engine. Alright, so here we are in the engine bay. As you can see, this motor is massive. It takes up the whole engine bay, and this hood on this car is probably 5 feet long, and it looks huge while you're inside. But this car, before I got it, was sitting in a shed for 20 years, so I've gone through and replaced a lot of stuff in it. It's had the carburetor rebuilt, it's got a new alternator, new water pump, new AC compressor, new power steering pump, new battery, new starter, new brake booster. It's got a lot of replacement parts, new fuel pump, but it runs like a top. But this is the machine that I really learned to work on cars, and I'm gonna start the motor up for you so you can hear it running. So now we're going to move to the interior of the car, but before we do that, I just wanted to show you guys the neat windows on this car. This has what are called winged windows, or mini vent windows, where that smaller part goes down first and then the rest of the window. And it's a pretty nifty feature, but it's a real pain to keep it working properly, and it took me a long time just to get it to this point. And there aren't really any replacement parts available for these, and if there are, they're really expensive. So here we are on the interior of the Lincoln. You can hear the leather seats crinkling behind me. We're just going to start left to right with the dashboard. Up here are your indicator lights. They all work. And here is the ammeter, the fuel gauge, and the light and window switches. Light and washer switches, sorry. The light switch is pretty unique in that you pull it to turn it on, opens the doors, push it, it closes them. And you rotate the knob to dim and raise the cabin lights. And if you turn it all the way, it clicks and turns all the lights on. And down here is the high-low beam switch. It's very convenient. This is the speedometer. As you can see, it's a horizontal bar style speedometer, which is pretty sick. Whenever it gets above 80, it rolls over and starts back over at 0. But going over 80 miles an hour in a car like this feels like a cruise, but it bobs and bounces so much it feels pretty sketchy. And the odometer says it's got 40,996 miles, but it's been rolled over once, so it's actually 140,000. And there's the temp gauge, fully functioning. And here's the Cartier clock. It functions. It did not work originally whenever I had the car. I've torn this whole dashboard apart probably 4 or 5 times, just fixing various things and replacing the radio. But this clock does work. This is the air conditioning controls. This car has an automatic climate control system that is unique to the 77 year model, and it is basically a nightmare to work on. I've spent countless hours trying to fix it, but was unable to make it work. This is the radio. This is a Retro Sound Classic model. Sounds great. One of the knobs is missing. It got lost while cleaning the car. I have yet to replace it. As you can see, some of the wood grain is coming off. That's due to the conditions it was stored in. The dashboard is padded, but due to age, it is cracked in a couple of places. But that's not really that big of an issue. It still looks great. That's my hula girl. She just sits pretty. Whenever we hit bumps, she dances. Ashtray, cigarette lighter, This is where the glove box would be. It's out right now from working on the air conditioner. That silver box in the back is the air conditioning control unit. And over in the passenger side, you have your seat control switches, rear and front tilt and seat, forward and back. And then you have the windows and door locks, and you also have an ashtray, because every door in this car has an ashtray, minus the driver's side door. Beautiful shag carpeting, very comfy. Here's the aux cord for the retro sound radio. And these seats are made of leather, but due to age and wear, they're worn out. Still extremely comfortable though. The headliner in this car is also in pretty good shape. Now we're gonna move it to the back seat. So here we are in the back seat of the Lincoln. As you can see, there's the front of the car, what feels like a mile away. And just for reference of how big it is in here, I'm 6'1", 285 pounds, and I fit right in back here. It is so comfortable. Starting over here, there's an ashtray, standard equipment back in the 70s. Here are the switches. This operates the window, and this is a light switch that operates the rear reading light. If I can hit it. There you go. Illuminates the opera window as well, with that beautiful Lincoln crest. And down here you see more luxurious shag carpeting, nice leather seats, and there's the other side. Very spacious back here. And with the opera windows and big glass, feels so spacious and just so open air. Let's move it out back. Here we are, back outside in the Lincoln. As you can see, this model has the skirted fenders, very 70s, very beautiful. Here's the half vinyl top. This is a leather finish, great condition for its age. No bubbles or tears. As we get around to the quarter panel, there is some rust, which is pretty standard for these vinyl top cars, especially being here in Texas. But it's a small amount of the car, and it still looks great. This is the retractable antenna. Goes up and down. It's pretty cool. And here is the beautiful big rear end on this car. I love the styling of these cars. I prefer the 70s Lincolns over any other generation. And we'll go in the trunk in a second. But I just wanted you to appreciate how large and beautiful this car really is. Let's get the trunk open. To open the trunk on this car, there's a separate key. This key does the driver's side door and the ignition, and this key does the trunk. So to open it, you lift the script, insert the key, twist it, a subtle click opens it, and then you see the large expansive cave that the trunk is on this car. Let me take the camera off the tripod and show you around. So I don't have most of the trunk lining in here. I took it out to work on it, install various things. You can catch a glimpse of the audio system in here. There are two Lightning Audio 10-inch subwoofers in here in a vented box. And then in here is the Pioneer 900 watt amp mounted to the back of the passenger seat. Over here you can see some holes cut in the frame or in the trunk, and that was because whenever I removed the gas tank to replace it, one of the squared off nuts that holds it in was broken, or the retainer was broken, so I had to cut some holes in the trunk to reach it. And also a fire extinguisher, because lead it into a little bit of the next segment, the exhaust. So the exhaust on this car is not factory. It has glass pack mufflers and resonators, because one day, early on whenever I had the car, I hadn't rebuilt the carburetor yet, and it was idling really high, and I didn't know why. So whenever I pulled it in, I just shut the car off, and about 2 seconds later, just massive explosion under the car. Rocked the whole thing. It blew out both mufflers, and then I had to get them replaced, and getting factory style ones was more expensive, so I got these glass packs, which have a nice bit of a rumble. But ever since that happened, I decided I was going to keep a fire extinguisher in the car, just in case. I'll give you a little sound bite of the exhaust here just in a second. Well, that about wraps up this tour of my Lincoln. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe. If you feel like I missed anything or you have any questions, just throw it down in the comments section. I'd love to answer your questions. You'll be seeing this car again real soon in a future video, but that's all for today, and now I'm off to edit it. Thank you.